Hello everyone, welcome to Conceptnomics. In this video, we'll be discussing the key features of Union Budget 2024-25. We'll be focusing more on the concepts and also the content part, that is the analytical part, which means we'll not give much focus on the facts and figures which are irrelevant for your examination and which does not require an explanation. So let's begin. Okay, to begin with, let us first see what are the four major caste or four major focus areas of the Union Budget this year. So here the four major caste refers to, or it represents, four group of population or a group of people that the government is focusing on in this Union Budget 2024-25. We can in short write it as GYAM, G-Y-A-M. So what does GYAM represent? G represents Garib, Y represents Yuva, A represents Annadata and M represents Mahilaye. So in short, we can call it as GYAM, and this keyword you can use it while you write answers please do remember this term GYAM. So let's see what is GYAM in detail. The first one, that is Garib. We know that the word or the term Garib means poor. That is the literal meaning of the term Garib. Now, by Garib here, the government means that the government is trying to uplift the poor people from poverty and also tries to raise their standard of living. So here, government tries to alleviate poverty plus raise the standard of living. Now the question is, how can the government raise the standard of living? That is, how the poor people can be brought out from poverty and quality of life can be assured to them. That is by raising their income. Standard of living of any person or any individual increases only when they have more money to spend. That is when their demand for goods are high and when they start consuming quality output or quality goods and services. So in order to spend more money, they need to have more income. So the standard of living can be improved only by raising the income level of the poor. And for that, the government introduces various welfare schemes focusing on the socio-economic development, employment generation, skill development, etc. Now, the second group of people or the second major caste that has been given focus in the budget is Y or Yuva. Here Yuva represents the youth of the country. We know that India is the most populous country in the world, and within our population we have a high proportion of people in the working age group, which means the productive capacity of our population is very high. Now I repeat the term productive capacity here. Why? Because productive capacity does not really mean productivity. Productive capacity has to be turned into productivity, and for that human resource development is very important. So the second pillar or the second major caste the government focuses on is the youth of the country, through which the government can attain economic growth and development by providing human resource development to this population, especially the young population of the country. We'll be coming into it in detail in the upcoming slides. And the third one is A, which stands for Annadata. Annadata here means farmer. The literal meaning of the term Annadata is the one who provides annam or food. That is the farmers of the country. Again, coming to the numbers, that is if you take the three sectors of Indian economy, agricultural sector, industrial sector and the services sector, maximum number of jobs are created in the agricultural sector. So in terms of employment generation, agricultural sector is very important. Again, another one is agricultural sector is predominantly seen in the rural economy, which means when there is a development in the agricultural sector, there is an automatic development of the rural sector or the rural economy as well. So for two things, agricultural sector is very, very important. One is in terms of rural development and second one in terms of the employability or the number of jobs that this sector creates. And the fourth one is Mahilaye. that is the women of the country. The budget focuses on women empowerment, that is providing more education, skill, health, etc. to the women of the country, believing that a woman can transform the society, and how impactful is a women's empowerment for the entire family and for the society. The fourth component is Mahilayam. We will be coming into all these four components GAM again in the upcoming slides in detail. And again remember the term GAM, and you can use this term in your answers as well. Now coming to the budget theme, it focuses on four important themes. One is employment, second one skilling, third one MSMEs, and the fourth one is middle class. We will see this in detail. Now coming to the first priority for a Vikasit Bharat. So what is the meaning of Vikasit Bharat? That is to achieve the goal of development, that is to become a developed country. Now when I use this term developed country, one important point that I would like to bring to your notice is that when you write your mains answers in your GS paper 3, in the mains examination, in your GS paper 3, you have a subject economic development. And you get a few questions from this area, economic development. So when you write your economic development answers, please make it sure that instead of using terms like developed country or underdeveloping country, etc., you can use different terms. Like for developing country, you can use advanced economy instead of developed country. Next time when you write an answer, try to use the term advanced economy. Again, instead of underdeveloping country, you can write emerging market economy. So when you use these different terms like advanced economy, underdeveloping country, so next time when you write an answer, try to use terms like advanced economy, emerging market economy, etc. instead of using the traditional ways of like developed country, underdeveloping country, etc. Now, coming to the priorities for a Vikasit Bharat. The first one is productivity and resilience in agriculture. Now, under this, the first point is transforming agriculture research. Now, to make it more clear, let us discuss a very important fact regarding agricultural research. Now, let's take rupee 1 spent on agriculture. Let us take three dimensions. One is agriculture research, another one is agricultural infrastructure, third one is agricultural subsidy. Now, according to economic survey, every 1 rupee spent on agricultural research, that is when you spend rupees 1, when the government spends 1 rupee for agricultural research, it gives a return of rupees 12. That is, every 1 rupee spent on agricultural research gives a productivity of 12 rupees. Now coming to agricultural infrastructure, every 1 rupee spent on agricultural infrastructure gives a return of rupees 6 to 7. And regarding agricultural subsidy, every 1 rupee that the government spends on agricultural subsidy gives a return of only 0.3 rupee. Now, when you look at these facts or numbers, you understand what is the relevance and the importance of agricultural research in the agricultural sector. So, when you spend 1 rupee, it gives 12 times the return. And this number itself substantiates and justifies the fact that agricultural research needs more importance within all overall spending in the agricultural sector. So, transforming agriculture research, it will raise the productivity, and also it is important from the perspective of climate change. For example, drought resilient crops or climate resilient crops, high yielding varieties of crops. So in terms of productivity as well as in terms of climate change, agricultural research plays a major role. And if a question is asked on agriculture research, you can use these facts to substantiate your answer. Now, again coming back to these numbers, agricultural research and agricultural infrastructure, as you have seen in the numbers, has more productivity, or it has more returns as compared to subsidy. So what is required? From these numbers, what are the conclusion that we can make? The first conclusion is that the government needs to spend more money on agricultural research and agricultural infrastructure. The second conclusion that we can draw is rationalization of subsidies are very important, which means the unwanted subsidies or subsidies which does not provide much benefit or productivity has to be cut down. So this gives us a conclusion that rationalization of subsidies is again very important. So these are the two conclusions that we can make. Now regarding the second point, that is Atmanirbharata. By Atmanirbharata we mean self-sufficiency. And before we go into the Atmanirbharata part, we need to understand why is India still dependent upon imports for our food crop or food grain requirements. The first thing is that there are primarily 4 important food crops that are grown in the country. Which are these 4 important food crops grown in the country? They are wheat, rice, cotton and sugarcane. Now, these are the 4 important or the major food crops grown in the country. Why is this so? Or why are farmers growing majorly these 4 food crops? The reason is that there is a guaranteed procurement or an assured procurement by the government through MSP for these 4 crops. So the reason is that there is assured procurement. Now, the second thing is that crops like oil seeds, pulses, millets, etc. Why there is less cultivation of such crops? One reason, there is no assured procurement. Even though some of them are covered in the MSP, still that is not an assured or unlimited procurement is not guaranteed. Second thing is lack of infrastructure to store these food crops like warehousing, storage, etc. Again, this draws attention to the importance of agricultural infrastructure. Why do we need better agricultural infrastructure, especially cold storages, warehouses, storage units, etc. So this draws our attention to the need for agricultural infrastructure. Alright, now as I said, these are the 4 major crops grown, and this leads to the problem of lesser diversification of food crops grown in the country. When there is no diversification and concentrates upon only a few food crops, what will happen? There will be lack of supply of other crops, the prices will be high, it leads to inflation, food inflation, and also the country will become dependent upon imports for the domestic requirement. So that is the Atmanirbharata part. Then release of new varieties which are climate resilient varieties which can be linked to agricultural research. Then next one is national cooperation policy, that is well development of cooperative sector to help the agricultural sector. Next is vegetable production and supply chains. Here the government focuses on FPOs, that is farmer producer organizations. In the last year's budget also, government had given focus on FPOs or farmer producer organizations. Now what is FPOs and are they similar to cooperative societies? Basically cooperative societies and FPOs, they are 2 different entities, they are not the same. Cooperative societies are different and FPO, farmer producer organizations, works in similar lines of cooperative societies, but they are a consortium where the producers or the farmers come together, they pool their resources, maybe for example machinery or such things, and they come together and combine their efforts and the output and sell it to the market. But cooperative societies are more of kind of business related, or maybe we can say they are more structured and things like that. But FPOs are informal organizations where the farmers come together. and then startups for vegetable supply chains for collection, storage, marketing, etc. Next is regarding natural farming. Here one important point is certification and branding in next 2 years. Now, why is certification and branding important, or what is the relevance of certification and branding? When you certify and brand a commodity, whether it be a crop, food commodity or anything else, when you certify it and brand it, you are actually adding value. So here what is happening is value addition. You are adding value to it. So through value addition, what will happen? The value will increase, which means the price and the demand for that commodity will increase not only in the domestic market but also in the international market. So through the certification and branding, the government is actually trying to increase the scope of exports of such commodities. So through this, exports can increase, and natural farming and organic food crops has a higher demand not only in the domestic market but also in the international market due to increase in awareness regarding the use of natural or organic food crops. Next is shrimp production and export. Focusing on shrimp production and export. Before going into that, a very important fact. Let us take for example 100. So 100 or 100%. Out of this 100, only 45% of the income of the farmers comes from agriculture. And where does the rest of 55% come from? The rest of 55% comes from allied activities plus agricultural labor. So only 45% of the total income of the farmers comes from agriculture agriculture in itself, primarily agriculture, and the rest of 55% is contributed by allied activities and also agricultural labor. And also the government has a dream of achieving doubling farmers' income. So in order to double the farmers' income or raise the standard of living of the farmers, it's very important that they have secondary sources of income, and allied activities can very well provide for the secondary sources of income. And among allied activities, shrimp production has a huge potential. One is because of the large coastline the country has, another one due to inland, the possibility of inland cultivation of shrimp. Next is digital public infrastructure. DPI in itself is a different topic. We'll be discussing DPI in detail in a different video. But here what you have to remember is DPI for coverage of farmers and their land in 3 years, and digital crop survey in 400 districts, which means the government is actually trying to formalize the agricultural sector, which means when they have digital records. See, lack of records is a major problem, land records or farmers' data, etc. So digitization means creating digital documents regarding all this. So this will lead to formalization of agricultural sector. And through formalization, it would be easy for the government to disperse various welfare activities, the benefits of such activities, etc. Again, the last one, issuance of Jan Samarth based Kisan credit card. Kisan credit card is a very important topic which is frequently asked by UPSC in various prelims and mains examination. If you do not know much about KCC, please go and do an extra reading for KCC. I will just explain what is Jan Samarth portal. Jan Samarth portal is a portal where 13 credit related schemes of the government is brought together. So this is a portal where a farmer can log in, and details of 13 credit related schemes of the government for farmers or agriculture sector is given there, and the farmer can check the eligibility and apply for such schemes through this portal. Basically, the advantage for the farmer is that all these schemes can be utilized, or all these schemes are available on one single portal, which increases the convenience for the farmers. So that is regarding Jan Samarth portal.